So, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And when you come to my channel, you will see different videos. So, there are videos from my Oneness series, that's a non dual series. Then there are videos in which I just talk what's up in the collective mind frame, like what's really pressing for like what kind of questions are actually particulating the collective mind frame at this moment of time. And then you will see what I have called scriptures revisited. And what I'm presenting in some of these videos, including this one, is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. It is an ancient text about oneness, and it is about 2000 years old. And I'm currently writing, actually, and I'm going to show some of the pictures of the book you can already now see. I'm writing a commentary and a translation, and you will have a translation of the Sanskrit terms. But what is more important, you will have a commentary. And the commentary that I'm presenting is actually coming from a non-dual stance. It is coming from the stance that includes your true nature. And one of the sutras actually already says that if we want to know ourselves, like our true selves, that is you on the level of your eternal self, on the level of consciousness. This is also discoverable. And if you want to know yourself, like how we can know that kind of true nature, how we can even formulate it in our minds. Obviously, we are restricted the moment we formulate it in our minds, but either we talk from our own immediate experience, or we listen to someone who talks from their immediate experience, or we read these kind of scriptures that come from that. And unfortunately, for a lot of enlightenment scriptures, actually, is that they are then interpreted again from, from a relative standpoint, like coming back um, into a into a standpoint that actually doesn't include the true self, that doesn't come from a realized point of view, that then again comes from an interpretation of a limited view. And so it doesn't do these scriptures any justice, actually. It doesn't mean that my commentary is gonna offer everything that Patanjali wanted to say, but at least it offers a non-dual perspective on this text. And all these videos that are on Patanjali on my channel, they offer this kind of non-dual understanding that come from actually having gone there, that come from my own experience. So what I'm sharing here is also not read anywhere. It includes my direct experience. This is true for all the videos on this channel, whether that's the Oneness series and the chakras. None of what you're listening to is coming from an ingested kind of knowledge. It is all my own experience and my own immediate experience of this. And I hope that this actually enables you to first of all know that this is accessible to anyone who wants to realize themselves, and also offer an understanding that there were many people throughout the centuries that tried with all of their might actually to offer non-dual understanding. And Patanjali's text is so helpful for all of us today still, because of the powerful um, the powerful narrative, actually, what is oneness, how you can actually approach it what is a practice to it, to this non-dual understanding. But also, what's not clear is it also offers what this understanding then implies. Like, especially in the second chapter, what is a lived experience of oneness? How does this then translate into my everyday life? And what is also the process, oftentimes, for a lot of people into coming into more union experiences? And union or oneness experiences are those when duality collapses. There is no more that you see something outside of yourself. You see it within yourself. Something is revealed within you. You're connecting to something or someone outside of yourself, seemingly, in a way that this duality collapses and that you see them, something about them is revealed as you, in you. And this reveals then also the unified nature of our existence. What is revealed to you in those moments is the unified nature of our existence. And this unified nature, you can have these oneness experiences, or you can actually realize yourself as that, as that consciousness that is unified, as the totality, as nothing and everything. And that's why I present this scripture, because it's one of these texts that offers everything. It offers how successively you can come from having oneness experiences to realizing your true nature. It includes a chapter that is on the implications of what oneness actually implies for our life and how it translates itself. It is absolutely inclusive. Doesn't just say this is consciousness and here then this is your reality, your individual self. It brings all these elements together. And that's why this text for me has talked to me for many years. Even before I knew what is in the book, I could feel the frequency of the book. I was carrying that book around because I could already feel what is in the book, like the power of the book, that the sanctity of this text, what is actually revealed in it, and how sacred this is for all of us to know. And so, if you want to read a book, I already have one book on Amazon, but this book probably I will take until next year to translate it. But if that interests you, you can look forward to it. But in this sutra, now coming back to the sutra of the text that I wanted to talk about, is 115. It talks about he's talking about practice. Like, how can we practice non-dual understanding? What are the components that help us realize what we essentially all are? Again, it is something that's already always in the background, your divinity, your eternal self, this connection all of you have. The moment you have creativity flowing through you, the moment you have an amazing insight, the moment you're somehow lit up, you're actually in connection to that eternal essence. And what isn't clear to a lot of people is that you can realize, or better said, discover yourself also on that level. And this is when that level can then more strongly actually flow into your life also. It is when this then opens to you to a much more higher degree and is then allowed to actually change, you know, we're continuously usually trying to change ourselves, and the highest that we get is to the causal level, right? We're trying to change patterns or karmic patterns and stuff like this. But what opens up to you when you realize the self is a level of effortless existence, of divinity that then does stuff on its own. Wouldn't that be great if patterns and stuff you are no longer fighting and you are no longer doing, and you are realizing yourself as not the doer, and stuff is simply just changed by itself, through the power of your vast essence. And obviously also there's a peace and a freedom that isn't known to you yet, that cannot be experienced as a relative self, but that is always also present. So when he's talking about practice in 115, he's actually talking about a second component that's really relevant for us to start investigating into who we truly are. And that is vairagyam. That means detachment. Detachment is essential to get to consciousness, or to discover yourself as consciousness, to discover your true nature, because what you have to go into is beyond the mind. And what keeps us from not knowing who we truly all are is our identification with the mind. It's really strong. It is basically being invested and engaged in mental stuff for your whole life. And so what you're actually doing is you have to lose the grip of the mind to see that you exist before the mind. This is the first kind of insight, that there is something in you that exists before the mind. Like, if you realize that, 97% of this population hasn't even realized that something in them exists before the mind. What do you need to come to that insight? Detachment. And the detachment that is necessary is of two things: the detachment from sensual objects, from the continuous grasping for an object, a relationship, some food, some, I don't know what it is, some luxury, some comforts, some substance, something, some distraction, some objects outside of you, sensual objects. And he says, what you also need to detach from is experiences or objects you hear of. So as long as you're really invested in all these kind of objects, usually you're not willing to turn towards what is before objects. This is just too interesting. It doesn't mean that you need to completely negate it and join a monastery before you can realize the self. This all and become aware of awareness. It's also not true. It is just a turning away from the attention on it. And for that, you need detachment. You need the detachment to turn away from these kind of objects. And also the detachment that is meant here, because it is connected to practice, is you witnessing, is you abiding. It means that you start witnessing thoughts. You start witnessing your mind. You start not taking on thoughts. And that's the first insight also about identification. It is that you are then caught up in a mind stream, and you go along the mind stream, and you go along with whatever object is presenting itself, or suddenly you will have to like you will have to do something, or you want to go outside, or you want to be distracted, or you want to not meditate. These are all tales of the mind that show you your identification with objects, that show you your identification that you're currently engaged in, that show you how the mind has a hold or seemingly a hold on you. And so the detachment is also to continuously just stay empty, stay alert, stay awake. And by doing that, by staying empty, by not taking on thoughts, by not going there, or by when you're caught up, you come back to being, by resting in being detached, practicing this, what happens is actually you're starting to detach not just from the objects that keep you identified or that keep your mind engaged or that keep you in these loops, but you're starting to disengage, to detach from the mind as such, from the power, the grasp of the grasp of the mind to take you someplace, to actually suggest something to you that you might even not want to think about or that you don't want to engage in. And this detachment is basically a part of the practice. It is staying empty. It is staying as being. It is allowing beingness, presence, consciousness, what you already are, to become more prominent, to become you becoming aware of this stillness, you becoming aware of this presence that you are. Because you're not aware that this is actually also always here. And this detachment is helping you. It is helping you detach from the mind. It is helping you becoming aware of it. And so in the sutta, he talks about that. He talks about you need to detach from sensual objects, our perceptions. You need to detach from experiences or from the grasp of the things you hear about and what else could be there on the level of experiences or on the level of perceptions that is interesting, and become detached from it. And he's talking about the actual practice, the practice of abiding, the practice of simply being, and how this detachment is vital to it. And so this is what he talks about in this sutra, how this is then allowing you to stay with knowing instead of being connected to objects, being in the experiences, being in it, staying as the knowing, staying as awareness, staying as beingness.